Alrighty, everyone. Welcome to PineBot Tutorial 4, where I'm going to show you how to use limit orders with PineBot. Okay, so to demonstrate that, we're going to use the same strategy that we were using on Tutorial 1 and Tutorial 2, but we've modified it further so that it's going to use a pullback before we enter into the trade. Okay, so if you haven't watched the Tutorial 1 and Tutorial 2, you should go back and do that, or you're probably going to be a little bit lost. All right, so we're sticking to the strategy where we reinvest our full account value into each trade, okay? But the difference this time is, so if you recall our original strategy, when we had a crossover of the price with the SSL, so when the SSL closed above the SSL band, we would immediately enter into the long trade, all right? But as you can see here, it works a little different now. So what happens is we cross above, all right, and then this SSL flips to green, okay? And then we wait for a pullback to the high, the upper part of the SSL, all right, which is called the SMA high. Okay, so this upper line of the SSL is the SMA high, and this one is the SSL low, or sorry, the SMA low. Okay, so we wait for that pullback, and then we enter the trade. Okay, but it's not quite that easy, and let me explain what I mean by that. So, for example, here, okay, you'll see at this point right here, we have a crossover, but then we don't get a pullback, all right? It just keeps going up and up and up. So at some point we have to say, okay, it's too late to enter this trade, all right? And when it's too late is, how can I draw a line on here? I completely forgot. Here, let me draw a line. Okay, so I'm putting a flag. Basically, when we have a crossover, all right, and we turn green, we put a flag right here at the SMA high. Okay, so this yellow line, oops, delete that. Okay, so we've got this yellow line here, all right? And that's basically saying, okay, this is where the SMA high, so the upper part of this band, this is where the SMA high was at the crossover, all right? And we can enter the trade as long as the SMA low is below that line. Okay, so the SMA low crosses this yellow line about here, okay? So right about here is where we can no longer enter the trade, right? So we have to enter it within this window. And as you can see, that doesn't happen here, all right? So we just completely miss this trade, okay? And you can see when we go over, we finally get the pullback way over here. Keep going. Okay, here's where we finally come back and touch that line, but we don't enter the trade because it's too late, all right? So that's how this works, this updated strategy. We have to wait for the pullback, like you can see on this trade, all right? We close above, pull back, and we enter right there. Now, the exact same is true for the short, except it's the reverse, okay? So for the reverse, we're looking for the pull up back to the SMA low. All right, so the short trade is just the exact reverse of what I explained with the long. Okay, so let's go in and look at this script, and you can see the modifications I've made. And as usual, you can get this script in the video description. All right, so head to the video description, and there will be a link to this new updated script. So what changes have we made? Let me see here. So here's our inputs. We've made no changes here. We've made no changes to the SSL channel or the plots. Okay, so the first change that I've made is this this block right here. So this is the entry flag. Okay, so this is what I told you, that we have to enter into the trade within a certain window of time. Or actually not time, but within a window of, let's say, price action. All right, so I've defined this variable, the entry flag, and the flag is set on the crossover. All right, so when we cross above, we set this entry flag to the SMA high, okay, which, as I said, is the upper line of this band, okay? Then when we cross below, or when we close below the band, we switch the entry flag to the SMA low, okay? And then we have our strategy conditions, all right? The long exit, short exit, long entry, short entry. So the long exits are identical to before, but we did, of course, modify these entries for the pullback, okay? So we modified, number one, the conditions, right? We've changed it to SMA high equals SSL up, which this condition here, it's basically when our band is green, okay? When it's green. And also this condition for our entry flag. So for the long, the SMA low has to be less than where we set that entry flag, okay? And the second change is we've actually included the limit price here. Okay, so for our strategy.entry, we put in, where am I? Oh, we have this limit right here. Limit equals SMA high, okay? And similarly, the short entry is just the exact reverse of that, okay? Where we've set the limit equals SMA low. Okay, so again, how do we automate this? We're going to do the same thing that we did in tutorial 1 and tutorial 2. So we're going to head over to PineBot. And here we're on our dashboard. We want to go to the JSON builder. All right, and we're going to fill this out exactly as before, except this time we're going to have to put in what our limit price is. Okay, so bear with me. Let's fill all this in as before. So symbol category 1, exchange, just for fun, let's change it up to gate. Account name, okay, let's say this time we're using the main account, so we'll call it main. API key, just plug in some numbers there. API secret, plug in some numbers. Okay, now, remember before we were using OKX, and we had to put in an API password. Well, for gate, we don't need any password, so this is just going to be populated with none, all right? Bot type, we're still going to stick with the symbol bot. So that's going to populate your leverage type and your leverage. And then we come down to side. Okay, so side, so again, let's start with the long entry. So long action, we want entry. For amount, okay, so this strategy, it's building on from tutorial 2, which uses the dynamic positioning to reinvest the entire account value. So similar to tutorial 2, we're going to set the amount to 0. And then for order, we want to put limit. Okay, now for limit price, what do we put in? So again, read these instructions as you're going through this form. So input the limit price variable in your PineScript strategy or indicator. All right, so we aren't actually putting in a price. You have to put in whatever variable you're using in the PineScript, okay? And you should always use a variable, all right? So if your limit price is just a fixed price, well, in your PineScript, you need to set that price as some variable, okay? So what variable did we have for the long entry? So let's go back. In our script, the limit, you can see it here, limit is equal to, for the long entry, it's SMA high. Okay, so just put that in there. All right, so SMA high. Okay, and that's it. You have a validated JSON. So just like before, we want to copy this and then paste that into our strategy alert message. So find the long entry, delete the JSON, and then Control-V to paste. Okay, so you'll notice what it's done here is for the limit price here, we're using a variable and then it's inserted this SMA high. So that will get converted into the actual price when it is sent to PineBot. Okay, now let's do the next one, which is the long exit. Now the long exit is going to be exactly the same as before. So we just set action to exit. We put the amount. Now, same as before, we want to do a full close. So we're going to tell it to close 100% of the position. Order type is market. Yeah, so for this, I don't know about you, but my strategy is I typically always exit on a market order. And that's because if you're exiting with a limit, there's a possibility that it won't get executed. Okay, so you can exit on a limit order if you want, but I typically always use market orders for the exit. Okay, just to ensure that my exit actually executes. Okay, so for the exit, we're going to stick with market. All right, here's our JSON. Copy it and plug that into the long exit, which is up here. Okay, Control V. All right, now let's do the shorts. So we're going to change side to short, action, entry, amount. Once again, we're using the dynamic positioning, so we're going to set that to 0. And just a reminder, if you are using fixed values, like if you want every trade to be $100, then you would put in 100. Okay, but again, we're building on from tutorial 2 where we used the dynamic. Okay, so set that to 0. Now, order type. Okay, this is our entry, so we want a limit order. Okay, and what was our variable? So let's go back, and short entry is this SMA low. All right, so let's plug that in, SMA low. Okay, copy. And let's paste that into here for the short entry. Control V. All right, and finally, we need the short exit. So action, exit, amount. It's a full exit, so 100. Order type is market. And we're going to copy that and find the short exit. Control V. All right, so that is our PineScript setup. Now, remember again, we need to close down the current script, which is loaded, and then we want to add it again. So let's reload that onto the chart. All right, and now we're going to create the alert. Okay, so we would go to alert. And for this, we are on the BTC chart. Okay, so we need to change the condition to PineBot tutorial 4. And let's give it a name. Let's call it BTC test. And let's delete our message. Next, we need to go back to the JSON builder and copy the placeholder to put into the message. So Control C for this alert message. Paste this into there. And don't forget your notifications. All right, make sure that you're sending it to the webhook, the PineBot webhook, which again is located on the JSON builder page right down at the bottom. Okay, so you would copy that, paste it into here, and that's it. You create the alert. All right, let's see if it pops up. Okay, there it is, and you're good to go. So that basically explains how to use limit orders with PineBot. Now let's take a look at the results of our updated strategy. Now, if we're looking at Bitcoin here, you can see that we get a profit of 282% using this pullback method. Now, if we go back and look at our other script from tutorial 2 where we didn't use a pullback, so that's what I've got here on the screen. You can see here we actually got a 1600% gain. Okay, now what's the reason for that? The reason is because our new strategy with the pullback, we actually miss a lot of the big winning trades. Okay, so there's advantages and disadvantages to waiting for the pullback. Okay, so for Bitcoin, we get a worse result. All right, here's our pullback strategy, we get a much worse result. Okay, but that's not always the case. For example, on DOT. Okay, for DOT, with our pullback strategy, we get a 3,000% increase. And if we go back to our other strategy where we don't use the pullback, we get 2,500%. All right. And you can see here like the drawdown. So if we don't use the pullback, we get a 54% drawdown. But with the pullback, which is here, with the pullback, it's a 44% drawdown, which is a much better result. Okay, so it depends on you and your strategy, how you want to set things up. And I think that pretty much covers everything for this tutorial. In the next video, if you've noticed, when we are filling out the PineBot, the JSON builder, we also have this cancel function. All right. And in the next video, I'm going to explain how to use that and where you would use that. All right. So that's all, and see you in the next video.